I've been interested in CNC topography and this layered colored plywood ever since I saw Dom do it on Instagram. When I first saw it, I was like, wow, this is way over my skill set. A year and a half later, I'm ready to jump into this technique and this material myself and make a usable, sellable product out of it. Hello everyone, I'm Andy. Welcome to andybirdbuilds. This is actually the first video in a new series that I'm calling Will It Sell? In this series, I'll be creating unique products, and instead of just showing you the process of making them, I'm also going to incorporate the full business side of the product with a price breakdown, the time I have into it, materials. Now, these are ideas that I have and more or less prototypes. But my goal of this is to give you guys an idea, whether to take as inspiration and run with it, make it your own, or just to give you a glimpse of the process and prices and materials and where I would consider selling it. Enough of that intro, let's get right into this build. I'm starting by running a test on this pine cutoff. Anytime I'm running a new CNC file, especially with complex projects, I run a test cut to make sure I get all my mistakes out of the way on the cheap wood. For the topography on this project, I picked Mount Vesuvius in Italy. It reminds me of the time that my wife and I traveled to Italy and toured the area. I got the STL file from Thingiverse. I'll leave a link in the description. Just make sure to check the license for the files you're using. So I'm using Fusion 360 for my CAD CAM software. I had to scale the file down to the correct size, and I generated the toolpaths in Fusion as well. I'm not going to go into Fusion here, but I'll link to some great resources in the description below for you to check out. I'll be using two end mills for this job, an 1/8 inch upcut end mill for my roughing passes. Then I'll come back with a 1/16 inch tapered ball nose for the parallel finishing pass. So I stopped the test carve halfway through the parallel finishing pass. And the reason for that is I learned what I needed to learn from this. I learned that it's too big, first of all, so I need to scale it down some more. But the main thing I learned is that I'm on the right track. Toolpaths are working great, and with a little scaling and a little editing back in Fusion, we'll be ready to run that layered plywood. Now, the other thing I have to do is I'm gonna make two of them. It's gonna be a 2-coaster set, so the toolpath will look a little bit different, but this is a great test. So here is the material I'm gonna actually use. There's several companies that make this product. It's not cheap. That's why I wanted to make sure I did a test before I did it on here. All right, so I just pulled this off the CNC. This is how it came off. To clean up any little stragglers, I'm just gonna use this wire brush. Since we machined all this area out, there's some tension already releasing in this plywood. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw this to this substrate, which is just a 1-inch piece of pine cut off. Now, once the epoxy is set, 3/4 inch of epoxy is set with it flat, it should not move from there. I'm going to seal all the edges, and I cannot stress the importance of this because I've had this mess up on me before. I'm using just a quick setting. This is TotalBoat's high performance resin. So I'm going to take the quick setting epoxy and brush over it like this and make sure to get every nook and cranny. And we just want like a 1/16 of an inch over the whole thing. And what this is going to do is it's going to seal all the wood edges from air bubbles coming up. So this is really important because we want this crystal clear. So I'm applying a finish to this epoxy. The main reason I'm doing it is to make these edges look better. So since I'm gonna put it on the edges and the bottom, I'm gonna put it on the top too. You don't have to put finish on epoxy if you don't sand it, which these edges could be sanded more. We also have to consider the time it takes. It would take a lot of time to sand these edges to get them perfectly clear. I'm using my favorite finish, walrus oil, cutting board oil, but I use it for pretty much anything. I actually have a 10% off discount code that if you're interested in any walrus oil products, be sure to check out the link in the description. So that's the process of making these 3D topography see-through coasters. I really like how they turned out, but like I said in the beginning, the focus of this video is coming up with a concept, coming up with a almost market-ready prototype, and ultimately to answer the question, will it sell? Our total material cost was $27 in these two coasters. That's $22 in the colored plywood and $5 in epoxy. So let's take a look at the time I have into these. So the total machine time was an hour and a half. We'll add in another half an hour for pouring the epoxy, sanding, and applying the finish. So that does not include design time. In this scenario, when I'm coming up with a new product, I don't consider my design time. Now, if a client approaches me with a specific idea and I have to go through the design process and reiterate with them, I do charge for that time. So that brings our total time to 2 hours. I'm going to use an hourly rate of $30 per hour. Now that may seem high to you or that may seem low to you. So I'm sharing my thoughts on this scenario, but don't take that as a foolproof way that I'm going to apply it to every product that I ever make. For the sake of this project and what real world, what I would charge is my material cost plus my 2 man hours at $30 an hour times 1.5. 1.5 is the number that I come up with that covers all my other costs that don't get included in my shop rate. So there's so much more to the job than just your labor. I have electricity cost, I have insurance cost, I have equipment replacement cost. So here's what the numbers are. 27 in materials. We've got $60 in labor times 1.5 is $130.50. So that number really doesn't work in my head. Meaning, what I have here is I produce 2 coasters for I have to sell them for $130. There may be a specific market out there, but I highly doubt it. So what are our options? Our options are to make a set of 4. So adding 2 more would add $27 to it. I don't think it would add too much time. It would still be around that 2 hour mark. So would a set of 4 sell for $160? I don't think so. So the next thing to look at can we reduce our material costs? Now, I have seen people make their own colored layered plywood out of different veneers themselves, which I haven't done myself, but I'm sure you can drastically reduce your material costs, but you're going to increase your time. So there's a relationship there. Really, where we can make the most improvement is probably our CNC efficiency. So can we reduce the machine time to half? That has to do with feeds and speeds, program setup, design files, size. So can we alter any of those things to get our costs down? In my mind, a set of 2 coasters like this, completely customizable, epoxy, one-of-a-kind coasters, I think could sell for 50 bucks. With all that information, let's answer the ultimate question. Will these sell? Is someone willing to pay $130 for 2 coasters? No, they're not. So those are my thoughts. Now let me know down in the comments. Let's have a conversation about what you think. Where could we reduce cost? So what number do you think people would buy them at? What changes could we make in the process? What design changes could we make? What would you do differently? Let's have a constructive conversation that we all can learn from. If this sparked an idea for you and you would like to know the resources that I use to make these, I'll leave all the links down in the description below. Big shout out to Winston Moy and his videos. Big shout out to Dom for the inspiration a few years ago. And shout out to Josh for helping me with Fusion files. One last thing, if you got value out of this, I'm not asking you to subscribe, but I'm asking you to let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more of this series. This is a completely new format for me, a new idea for me, so I would love your feedback down in the comments. If you feel stuck with creative ideas and want to know some ways that I use to get unstuck, check out this video right here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.